Zero Trust networks come in many implementations. Some implementations are completely in the cloud, including the software and services itself. We saw Google's applications do this earlier. Others are hybrid, such as Microsoft 365 applications that run both in cloud and locally. Other implementations are more localized. A local network may have a file server and some other servers running services. Some implementations may use cloud ZTNAs to authenticate the local resources. Two-factor authentication and access control would be, in this case, handled in the cloud instead of locally before a user connects. This scenario is fast to implement since the service can be bought as a service. This can be great for some applications, but can struggle with niche or legacy software that uses protocols other than TCP. The access control can also be hosted locally to mitigate these previous issues, although it does take more time and resources to set up the hardware and software. However, this can benefit on-premise workers and make it possible to integrate all company assets into one local service. The access control works closely with the user agent on the client devices to enforce certain policies such as time of access, location, and applications the client can have. This way, a department can only access resources they need to complete a task. The main parts of a local Zero Trust network are as follows. The networks typically have a gateway device running the ZTNA software to verify devices before accessing resources. All organization resources are protected on one side of the gateway, with local and outside traffic routing through it. The gateway enforces the current set policies that are often stored on an adjacent policy server. The policy server keeps a record of all users, resources, and access rules. Many times this is an Active Directory server or a custom server integrated with the gateway. Finally, there can be an authentication server on-premise as well using Kerberos or another type of authentication software. There are many other services that can be added like logging and monitoring services that work in hand with the user agent and gateway. But for the sake of this video, we will avoid detailed discussion of these. Let's run through an example of a connection scenario. First, a client opens his laptop, which is running a user agent software program. This software checks the laptop to verify the device is secure and updated to the organization standards. From there, the client connects to the gateway with TLS encryption. A VPN can be used, but is not necessary since most services are encrypted at the application level. The username and password are handed over, and a one-time password via multi-factor authentication is sent to the user. The user replies to the challenge and logs in. Once the person is authenticated to be on the network, the policy server fetches the names of resources the user has access to. That way, when the user requests to open a file or use a service, the gateway knows what to allow or deny for the user. Eventually, the session will time out and the user will have to authenticate again. This keeps any unauthorized re-entry from becoming a possibility. In the next section, your knowledge of Zero Trust networks will be tested and applied to different real-world scenarios.